Hi everyone, and welcome to another CorkDev. Today I'm going to be talking to you about AWS reInvent 2021. So the conference happened last week. It's a 5-day conference, and it was the first in-person hybrid version of reInvent that they've done since 2019 when I was lucky enough to go there. So um, reInvent is an experience. The real experience is when you go to Vegas and you're following all of these talks and hopping between different hotels, trying to get at different different tracks. But it's great that since the pandemic, there is an option to watch the conference online for free. So that's what I was doing in my spare time last week, trying to catch up with everything for you here. So first, a little bit about me. After the summer, I joined Zazzle here in Cork to build up a new engineering team. So if you're looking for somewhere new, keep us in mind. It won't cost you a thing to have a chat with me on Zoom or meet up for a coffee in the city to talk about our open roles. Right now, I'm looking for full stack software engineers. So whatever your language, I've got a place for you in Zazzle. Um, Scan the QR code there, and you'll be able to see more detail on the roles that are open at the moment. I'm also an AWS community builder, and in that's kind of a nice little program where I get to keep in touch with lots of different things from AWS. I'm the organizer of this meetup, CorkDev, and you can follow me on Twitter at Sugrue. So, first, I'm going to go through my highlights, and then we'll go through some of the categories like machine learning, serverless, networking, etc. But the highlights, right? And this is the big one, Amplify Studio. So, I'm a huge fan of AWS Amplify, and what Amplify Studio allows you to do is to kind of focus on the visual part of things and to go from no app to an application in hours instead of weeks. And one of the one of the really nice things about this is that it's pushing on the low code idea, which some developers like, some developers don't like. I don't think there's any harm in it. And it's building on top of Amplify. So what's Amplify? It's really this tool set over all of these other AWS functions and services that exist. So you've got a visual backend builder for your content and user management. You've got libraries for all of your favorite front end technologies. You've authentication built in with Amazon Cognito. You've got a data store which you control with your backend builder if you want, and then you're using GraphQL to interact with your data store. You've got analytics for your applications. You have geo features if you want to build up location aware applications. You've got APIs with Amazon API Gateway. You've got your AWS Lambda functions in there. You've got chatbots. You've got machine learning and prediction capabilities, so you can do image recognition, etc. There's PubSub, push notifications, and in-app messaging, which was just announced before reInvent. And then you've got storage as well, which is powered by Amazon S3. So it allows you to create full stack applications, front end and back end. Like for example, our CorkDev site is hosted on AWS Amplify. What I do when I need to do an update to it, which is badly needed, is I push to GitHub, and then the hooks work so that it builds and serves it back up. My own personal website is up in Amplify as well. Very, very easy to use. So what's new? This is what Amplify Studio gives you. It allows you to have your Figma designs. So your designers are there, they build something in Figma. You can sync them up inside in Amplify Studio to create React components. This is pretty good, pretty good. And so the breakdown here is that you've got your Figma file. You can import that basically, get your React components. Then you can use your in-app data to hook in to parts of your React components. So you've got like live a live UI. And then you can extend your UI with the Amplify primitive library. So Amplify UI then is this open source UI toolkit with drop-in components for authentication, storage, interactions, and other things. And this is an example of one of them, the authenticator. So that's how it would look. It's saving you from having to deal with a lot of the CRUD and boilerplate that is in every application. and then really focus in on your business logic. And I think that's a good theme across reInvent, really. The other thing that there is the option to extend Amplify beyond that list of capabilities that I just showed you there, beyond this, using the Cloud Development Kit. And I'll talk about the Cloud Development Kit in a few minutes. So, right, what's next? The other really nice thing was Amazon SageMaker Canvas. So SageMaker is where you deal with all your machine learning in AWS. And what there's a big claim here is that you can create ML predictions without any ML experience or writing any code, more low, no code stuff. So it's a big claim. And with great power here comes great responsibility. But AWS have lowered the bar for users. And here, what you can do is that you can throw together various data sets that you might have at your hands as a business analyst or a non techie. You can pick the best model and run inference and view the model reports. And then you kind of get an idea of how the prediction works. The most important thing then is that you can take things from that point and share it with your developers, your data scientists in SageMaker, so that they can build on your prototype, you could say. So Julian Simon has a fantastic video that's available from that QR code that goes into a deeper dive about how all of this works. But it's pretty nice. It's something interesting anyway. One of the other things that I found surprising, maybe, is this extension to CloudWatch. So if you know CloudWatch, it's a way of monitoring everything. And CloudWatch evidently will allow you to run A/B tests and experiments for your applications, as well as doing feature flags. So controlling features, using feature flags for your applications. And then it provides analysis on those results for you. It's pretty cool because this is something that when I think about A/B tests, when I think about feature flags, I go to LaunchDarkly. That is the gold standard right now. And while CloudWatch evidently mightn't be a gold standard yet, it's early days, it could be. And it's really nice keeping everything inside in the one company. You've got this one bill for all of your stuff if you just keep everything within AWS. The other interesting thing for CloudWatch is another head-to-head that they did against, I suppose, Google Analytics. They won't say it probably, but with real-time user monitoring, it is AWS's answer to Google Analytics. And it gives you all kinds of statistics and metrics about user behavior on your site through the addition of a little snippet of JavaScript. So that's my highlights, but there's loads of other things that are interesting. And we're going to start with serverless. So serverless, AWS Lambda really is where I think, whenever I think serverless, straight away I think AWS Lambda functions. And that's because it has become synonymous. It's a really easy way of getting into serverless or getting into the cloud even, using AWS Lambda functions. And there's been so much innovation there over the last 6 years. It was launched in 2015. We've gone from different languages being supported, loads of different things like container image support last year, and as well step functions. And if you're using AWS Lambda functions and you haven't looked at step functions yet, really do, because it really helps you to decouple your applications and express your application in a way that's very, very understandable. So AWS Lambda itself didn't get much of a look in. But there was lots of serverless news. The look in that AWS Lambda did get was this partial batch response for SQS. And if you're using SQS for AWS Lambda applications, then this will actually make a bit of a difference for you. So what it means is, up until now, if you're processing a queue, an SQS queue, you can't just replay the failed recordings. If one record failed, the whole queue was considered to be failed. And with this, it's only the failed ones that can be replayed, which gives you huge performance and throughput improvements and cost savings, of course. But the big theme across the initial days of reInvent was analytics going serverless. And there's a trend here. You'll see. It gets repetitive, I'm afraid, but it's really cool. What Redshift serverless, the first thing is that means that it's easier to get at your data and insights without needing to do any infrastructure setup. It'll automatically scale for you, and the costs are optimized as the compute is scaled back when you're not using it. So it's perfect for ad hoc analytics, I should say, or dev and test work environments. So, you've got your production Redshift environment, and that might need to be running all the time. But your development one certainly doesn't need to be running all the time. We all sleep at some stage. So it's really, really good for that kind of thing. Um, Next thing is MSK serverless. And MSK stands for managed streaming for Apache Kafka. And it's similar in terms of benefits. You're managing your cluster and partitions, um, or you don't need to manage your cluster and partitions. So you can just get at the streaming quickly. Um, EMR serverless allows you to run petabyte scale analytics without doing any server configuration. And then SageMaker serverless inference is really good for intermittent usage patterns. So if you're deploying ML models, you're doing a pay per use rather than working with servers and clusters, and you only pay for the compute capacity, which is built by the microsecond. So in all of these cases, what we're looking at is you don't need to set up your infrastructure. You can just get going. Focus again on your business domain. Don't worry about the ops part, at least initially. Um, the other really nice thing that was added was Kinesis streams on demand. So we've got streams of data coming in from loads of different sources, and it can be unpredictable, etc. So still on the theme of reducing all the stuff that you need to manage, you can now avoid setting up your shards for your Kinesis data streams with the new on-demand mode. And it's really easy to set up or to switch in a way that's not dissimilar to how DynamoDB is set up, where you've got on-demand or provisioned options. So the next section is databases. A few announcements in here. The first one, and not unrelated to serverless. When you think about databases for serverless, you always think DynamoDB. It's always AWS Lambda DynamoDB. And DynamoDB has been a huge product for AWS, and it's amazing. It takes a bit of time to get your head around it, but it's well worth it. I can recommend a fantastic book around DynamoDB, actually. But so previously, you might have archived some of your data from your DynamoDB table into S3 because you don't want the table getting too big, etc. But then if you put your archived data into S3 and your application needs it, then you're going to need a secondary method of querying that old data, or you're going to need to restore it, etc. But what you can do now is you can use the standard infrequent access table. And what that means is you save your storage costs by about 60%. And it also, well, the downside to it is that your reads to this table class will cost more than standard DynamoDB tables. It'll cost 25% more. But you can switch back and forth at any time. It's pretty nice. On databases, the other thing is RDS Custom. So RDS Custom for SQL Server was announced in this reInvent. Previously, we had a custom server for RDS Custom for Oracle. And what this means is that you can customize your database server host and OS and apply patches or change settings to allow third-party access. So, for example, if you wanted the common language runtime to be enabled, or you wanted to go over the limit of 100 databases, for instance, you could go and kind of take over. So it's the best of both worlds between managed services from AWS and giving you the freedom to customize. A really nice little trend that we're seeing here, really. And the last thing on databases is DevOps Guru for RDS. Now, this will only work if you're using Amazon Aurora. Again, Amazon Aurora has seen a huge uptake across AWS customers. And what DevOps Guru does is it gives you the capability to detect, diagnose, and resolve performance and operation issues in Amazon Aurora. So it's like this thing that's just monitoring what's going on, and it's telling you instead of you needing to go in, dig out through logs, etc. So if you use Aurora, it could save you a lot of time working out what might be causing a production problem, it might alert you to it here. So while talking of DevOps, just a couple of things here is there's CodeGuru Reviewer, which is a secrets detector. So CodeGuru is this machine learning service that looks through your code and gives recommendations, etc. One of the new things that you've got with CodeGuru Reviewer here is that there's a secrets detector. So the point here, you point it at a repository and it goes and it digs out any hard-coded secrets that you've got in your source code. It does happen now and again, and it puts them into AWS Secrets Manager. Really nice. The other thing that you've got here is Amazon Inspector. Not related to code. This is related to your EC2 instances and your ECR-based container workloads, and it evaluates your security. So it looks through things, and if it finds any issues, it'll let you know. And what I'm talking about here is kind of bad network access, etc. So yeah, it might seem a little boring, but it's great for compliance. It's great for making sure that your EC2 instances, especially, are really locked down. Next, we'll look at a few of the announcements in the storage arena. So in storage, there was two main things for S3. The first one I'm going to talk about here is access management. Now, S3 has been around for 15 years, so that is a long time. But this simplified access management is pretty cool. So there's been loads of ways of managing access to your buckets because S3 predated IAM. But now you can move away from using ACLs, access control lists, and use policies instead. So if you use S3, this will probably make you very happy. And while you're building up this policy, there's a validation helper. So that when you're changing the policy for the bucket, it'll assist you and simplify the policy. Now, S3 glaciers, they're really good. They're great for archived data that's infrequently accessed, and it makes data storage cost a lot less. But the downside is that your retrieval of the data takes longer and retrieval costs, etc. But your storage is less. But now you can use this new class to have the best of both worlds, a little bit like that DynamoDB thing. So you'll still save about 68% on your storage costs compared to standard S3 storage and retrieval policies. If you're nervous about which one to use, if you're not sure if you should be messing around with your S3 storage class, try out S3 Intelligent Tiering. It works out what to do for you. It's pretty nice. And it usually gets it pretty right. It's using ML to work all this stuff out. Last thing on storage is S3 event notifications with Event Bridge. So if you're using an event-driven architecture on AWS, you're likely to be using Event Bridge. And now you can have native reactions to S3 object changes. So something new goes into the bucket, something is deleted, etc. You can react with Event Bridge. So on to compute. There's always something about compute at reInvent. This year it was no different. So in the list of compute releases, the first thing that we got is an M1 Mac EC2 instance. So we've had the M1 chip has been fantastic for Apple. If you've got an M1 MacBook, you'll know what I mean. It doesn't go on fire anymore. It's not like making loads of noise. And now you can take advantage of that in the cloud. And that builds on previous year introduction of Mac EC2 instances. So that's pretty good. The Trainium chip, it's now available for training deep learning models. It's like a specialist EC2 instance that you'd use for deep learning. And then you're using TRN1 instances for that. And then Graviton 2 came out last year. Graviton 3 now uses less energy. It's faster for cryptographic and ML workloads. And there's C7G instances on EC2 for this. Okay, right. So onto machine learning. We've covered some of the machine learning announcements already. And Chatbot Designer is pretty interesting. Again, this is just using machine learning in a very, very clever way. You go and you can build up a chatbot from nothing by inputting conversation transcripts. They're analyzed and they work out the most common user intents and actions. Um, the example they use in the keynote, in the machine learning keynote, was around the insurance industry, where someone might say, "My house is flooded." What links to that? What's the most common action that the chatbot would need to do? Is it would need to help with filing a new claim. So it's kind of building up that intelligence. Um, on lowering the bar for ML and making it more accessible, SageMaker Studio Lab lets anyone get into machine learning for free. So you don't need an AWS account. You don't have to put in a credit card. There's nothing like that. It's a really low risk way of getting into ML. So you sign up for a free account in SageMaker Studio Lab. You'll be able to set up an instance and run. You'll be given a notebook then that you can work with. Really nice. And then the other thing along the SageMaker is the SageMaker training compiler. So what this will do is it will accelerate your deep learning training by up to 50%. And you do this by adding in these 2 lines of code into your Python, typically. And what will happen is it'll automatically compile your Python training code and create custom GPU kernels specifically for your model. Training code will use less memory and compute, and as a result, it trains faster. Then the inference recommender, this is where you're being guided on choosing the best compute instance and configuration to deploy your machine learning models. And it's looking here at performance and cost. So it's looking at maximizing performance and minimizing cost. It's going to guide you through it. And then the other thing is ground truth. Ground truth plus builds on previous ground truth, which is all about data labeling. And data labeling might seem straightforward, but it's not. If you've tried it, you know it's not. So again, this means that you don't need to have a huge amount of ML experience. It means you don't need to have a big labeling workforce because you're outsourcing the labeling to real experts. So here is kind of a comparison of plain old ground truth and ground truth plus. You're dealing with AWS experts. Instead of building your own workflows, you've got experts who'll be able to build your workflows. The user pool, the people who may use this is broader. You can have your program managers and your data operation managers using this. You've got this expert workforce instead of needing your own private workforce. And yeah, it's just really, really good. So Cloud Development Kit is the next one. And Cloud Development Kit, I haven't used it, but I think I will. And I certainly think I will since V2 is launched. So what's AWS Cloud Development Kit? It's an open source development framework to define your cloud application resources using all your favorite programming languages, if the languages there are your favorite on that slide. And it has these high-level components named constructs that pre-configure your cloud resources with defaults. So at reInvent, AWS launched CDK2, which addresses a lot of the deficiencies that might have been in V1. So this is why it is time to look again. So for example, you don't need to download a separate package for each AWS service you use. You've got CDK Watch, which watches your source files and assets and will automatically perform a deployment of the specified stacks when a change is detected. So if you're looking at CDK, there was a new book just launched this week or last week, which is the ultimate reference. Use the QR code to go and order it. If you're considering it at all, this is the place to go. The people that wrote this book, these four people, really know their stuff. Matt Coulter works for Liberty Mutual up in Northern Ireland. He runs the CDK days. He got the Go Build Award on stage at reInvent. So he is an expert on this, and we might have him join us at a CorkDev sometime soon. On to networking. So for networking, there's the addition of some new local zones. So previously there was 16 local zones set up in the States. And what a local zone is, it's a type of infrastructure deployment that places compute, storage, database, and other select services close to large population and industry centers. Now, starting in 2022, there'll be new ones popping up in over 21 countries, from Australia to Argentina, Portugal to South Africa, so many places, well, 20, 21 places. So it could be really useful. It will help your customers to have a better experience. AWS Private 5G. A bit niche, I would say, but what it allows you to do is it allows enterprises to set up their own private mobile networks. So you do the configuration, AWS manages everything else, including the SIMs, and the customers will only pay for the network capacity and throughput that they request. Right now, it's only available for preview in the US. Then AWS Cloud WAN allows you to build and manage networks that run across cloud and on-premise environments. Related to this, um, is direct connect site link. It's not the easiest name to remember. And what this does is it creates connections between your on-premise networks through the AWS global network without sending traffic through any of the AWS regions. So, two other things in the networking arena that are of interest. One is VPC IP Address Manager. And what this does is it's an attempt at providing proper address management and auditing to IT administrators. Typically, IT administrators might need to um, manage all of their IP addresses through a spreadsheet. And so new IP address gets added. The allocation of these IP addresses is all managed through spreadsheets. Now, this is through an automated IP management workflow. Then there's also VPC Network Access Analyzer, and this will help you identify any network configurations that you've created in your cloud configurations that would lead to unintended network access. Very, very good for security. Coming towards the end now, just a few more sections. One is SDKs, right? 3 new AWS SDKs, very focused on mobile application development. So there's a Swift SDK and Kotlin SDK, both in preview, and a Rust SDK as well. All three are in preview as they work out the right way to express a lot of this stuff. This builds on top of a pile of other SDKs that AWS have. They've got them for C++, Go, Java, JavaScript, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Python, and Ruby already. Onto architecture. So in architecture for AWS, there's the well-architected framework. And the well-architected framework consists of 5 pillars. The 5 pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. And there's this new pillar that's been added, sustainability. And this will help customers to reduce energy consumption and improve efficiency. Also in the well-architected framework, there's a number of lenses in the well-architected framework, and they focus on specific application types, serverless and SaaS, for example. But now you can go and you can create your own custom lenses for better internal practices in the cloud. If you haven't used the well-architected framework, I would recommend you take a look at it. If you are an Amazon customer, talk to your account manager about it, and they'll be able to help you get some guidance in getting started. But of course, you could just go to well architected on the AWS console and pick one of the pillars and assess your applications for how well they adhere to the principles. Community, right? This is outside of the AWS console, of course, was the introduction of AWS Repost. And this is a place that you can go to ask or answer questions. So you can go there and you can be considered an AWS expert. You can go there and you can find out the answers from experts. It replaces the AWS forum, which I think is gone now. And in here as well, you've got your profile, so you can upload your own AWS certification progress, so people know how knowledgeable you are or what you're knowledgeable in. Um, so that brings us to the end of this reInvent recap. I'm going to summarize though. There's three things that I took from this conference. One is use Amplify. If you're building a front-end application, use Amplify. If you're thinking of doing a side project, use Amplify. Amplify is probably the nicest way of combining lots and lots of technologies into a really useful way, putting together a really good workflow for your build and your deployment and your development, all there for you. I can see it getting bigger and bigger. I can see some improvements that might happen with Amplify Studio someday. Um, there's uh, there's a lot to look at there. I really, really would recommend it. Maybe we'll have a talk on AWS Amplify sometime soon as well. The other thing that we've seen here is that there's a lot of lowering the barrier to machine learning. It's making it easier for people just to get involved in the machine learning space. It's great to see. We've seen how easy it could be to create chatbots, how you can start learning machine learning, SageMaker, with SageMaker Studio. Um, we see how your business analysts can start to work with data sets and work out where machine learning could help. It really helps kind of put a quick proof of concept together. The more people that get access to machine learning, probably the better. As you can see from a lot of the products that we've talked about, machine learning is very much at the core of AWS. It's powering a lot of the things like CodeGuru. And then with serverless. Um, the serverless takeaway this year is probably less about AWS Lambda, less about Fargate, and more about saying you just need to spend less time managing your servers. Let AWS provide stuff so that you can do analytics, so that you can have Redshift working, so that you can have your Kafka streams coming in. Yeah, so a pretty good reInvent, I would say. Probably no crazy, major, huge things that happened here. Lots of great iteration though. So that's it. That's it for me. Thank you very much for your time and for listening. And yeah, we'll catch you next time.